All right, I mentioned telling our Alaska story on Facebook, and I asked whether people would prefer a blog post or a video, and everyone wanted both. So I drug Jackie into a video, and we're going to talk about why we're moving to Alaska. But we want to start at the beginning and talk about first why we went to seminary at all, how we ended up at New Orleans especially. To go ahead and say what you remember, and maybe I'll say like what actually happened.
I do want to just put a disclaimer in here because wives probably don't remember how it actually happened, but I would say husbands do. So there is a disclaimer there. The stories may not line up, but the main point does get across, and I think that's what we're after.
Okay. All right. So how did we end up at New Orleans?
So back in 2007, I was about to finish up at Tennessee Temple with my undergraduate degree. As I sat through classes, I always kind of wondered, hey, it's about time to graduate. What am I going to do? Wasn't really certain on that. And so it was around 2007, I felt like that the Holy Spirit started encouraging me to move my family to New Orleans. Didn't really know it was New Orleans at the time, not the seminary that I would have picked. I don't know exactly what ended up pushing us to New Orleans. It has been several years ago, but I know there was one Sunday morning we were going to church at Antioch where I was a youth pastor, and Tracy says it didn't happen like this, but this is the way I see it happening. Is I told her, I said, I got something I want you to pray about. And what did you say?
I said, I don't want to go to New Orleans.
And I don't think I had said anything to her about New Orleans. And she says that we had talked about New Orleans. I don't remember it that way.
I think we had talked about seminary in general and the different seminaries that existed. And I just kind of knew that that's where we would be going. But I really didn't want to.
Oh, so anyway, we went down. New Orleans had things called preview weekend where you could go down. I think we got there on a Thursday afternoon. You would stay Thursday afternoon, Friday, and then probably around lunch you would leave on Saturday. So we went down for preview weekend. Just to kind of see what it was about. And you get to sit in some classes. They would take you out in the city, take you somewhere to eat, just kind of let you, just a preview basically is what it was of the seminary in New Orleans itself. Mm-hmm. And so we got there and we were running late as usual. And so we checked into the hotel we were staying at. We went over to the campus and it was time for dinner that afternoon. We got in, we walked in, and they were almost ready to start, and I remember us going through the line and kind of getting our food and going to sit down. Mm-hmm. And I still remember who was going to pray the prayer over the food. It was Dr. Paige Brooks. And as soon as we bowed our heads, the Holy Spirit spoke to me and said, "This is where I want you." And so I knew then that's where we were supposed to be. Before we got there, I had no idea that was the spot we were supposed to be at. So during that weekend, I just filled out the application and turned it in. And we actually stayed Saturday night downtown New Orleans just to kind of get to see what New Orleans was about. And so we stayed downtown and we came home Sunday afternoon. Didn't really want to come back then. I remember I was like, man, I hate to have to go back to work Monday.
There's so much to see.
There was so much to see. It was in Jackson Square. And we were there, and there was a lot of stuff going on. And, New Orleans is a fun place to be, but it's also a place you got to kind of watch where you're going as well. So we started getting everything prepared, and I think that was it March?
I don't have any idea.
It may have been March of 2008. I had already taken some classes at Tennessee Temple that would transfer over to New Orleans, but you had to take classes. It's through the Baptist College Partnership to take classes, and you had to pass that, and then you would get credit for seminary. And so we moved down in think it was sometime in July of 2008, in July.
It was hot.
And we moved down, and I took a class in the Old Testament because it's something I already had, but it was a week-long class. You had to study and then do some work to get credit for it on the seminary level. And so that's when we moved down to New Orleans back in 2008.
Okay. And then let's just fast forward 5 years. And 2013, right?
2013, seminary, they say that your degree, the degree that I got, master's degree, is supposed to be a 3-year degree, but you have to take a lot of classes in between semesters to get those 90-something hours that I think that it is to do that. And so if you don't do that, it does kind of string along everything, and it pushes it out, but hey, it is what it is. And so in 2013, we're going to graduate in May with my MDiv in leadership. And so in February, they did a kind of like a ministry fair. It'd be a job fair, ministry fair. They had several different states coming in that students, graduating seniors, could go and talk and just kind of get to meet the people on the state level and see if there's anything they might be interested in. And before that, they sent out an email and they told the different states that we're going to be there. And I know it was like Tennessee was there because I did speak with Tennessee. Alabama was not there for whatever reason. I know I spoke with someone from Montana. And then the guy from Alaska was going to be there. And I said something to Tracy about it. And she kind of...
Yes, I don't want to go to Alaska.
She shot, I don't know why, but she shot that down. And so I just kind of blew it off. I was like, okay, that's fine. But, I guess preceding all of this, we talked about wanting to go somewhere where there was not a lot of churches. And we kind of talked about going out west, Colorado, Montana, Wyoming. It seemed like a great place to go.
We had a perfect picture in our heads of what it was going to be like.
And also graduating, you thought, well, within 6 months we'll be somewhere. And so she did change her mind. I ended up speaking with a guy in Alaska. I spoke with a guy in Montana. I was going to speak with a guy in Wyoming, but for whatever reason, she had to go into labor that day and kind of messed everything up. But
twins had to be born. So
we skipped that one. And I guess fast forward to May of 2013, we graduated, and the seminary has a stance where when you graduate, you got to be off campus within 2 weeks. So it's kind of rush after you do graduate. So I think we moved back up here in June the 1st of 2013 is when it was, and it was going to be a temporary stay.
But I did want to mention before we moved, you were still working at Educator, and you were praying about what direction like that God would want us to go. You were praying as you were driving, and you said something like, God, where do you want us? And what happened right then?
So, yeah, it was kind of funny. I guess you could blow anything off of just being, that could just happen. But, if we did that, we could do a lot of things in the Bible that we could blow off that Jesus did that was miracles. You say, you could always explain it away. And so I was going to work one morning. It was after I had spoken with a guy in Alaska and still wasn't certain where we were going to end up at. And you have to remember, you're in southern Louisiana. You're on the interstate. And as I'm going to work and praying, and I said, God, where do you want us at? And as I said that, you catch out of your peripheral vision, car, truck, something coming by, and so I kind of just turned my head and looked. And the tag on the back of that pickup truck, it was from it had an Alaskan tag on it. So I don't know, that was just kind of like, wow. Yeah. Weird. Is that, am I looking at too much into this? But So yeah,
I looked it up, and it's a minimum of 3,800 miles from Alaska to New Orleans. So
now we did take a chance. We did have some students at New Orleans that was from Alaska, but there was only one couple, and that was not their mode of transportation. So it was
a neat thing that happened anyway. Okay, so it just kind of
started pointing us in that direction.
it
I
just
think
kind of stuck in our minds. I think, like, wait, is that right? Is that it? Okay, and so then we left. We moved back to Alabama
temporarily. Temporarily, we're going to be gone within 6 months.
My parents' mobile home that they had bought, because the tornado had damaged their house, so they bought this mobile home. It was still right beside their house, and we could stay in here temporarily. We thought maybe 6 months. So, like, I didn't even want to unpack too much. I didn't want to hang pictures up. I didn't want to have to put holes in their walls. And like Jackie didn't want to buy big packages of anything. I remember him talking about like dishwasher tabs, just get the small packages because we don't want to take a whole lot with us when we move.
Yeah, it's just too hard. It's aggravating to move anyway. You don't want to take a whole lot of stuff with you. Mm-hmm. So anyway, 6 months has turned into 8 years as of June the 1st, 2021. But to back up to June 2013, it was kind of a few churches that had popped open in Alaska that I had put in for, but I never did hear anything back from them.
And you had applied not only in Alaska, but
several
places.
It was one of those things where, you feel like God wants you to do something and then nothing happens. And we try to get ahead of ourselves sometimes and try to rush things along, I guess you could say. And nothing was happening. I mean, there was nothing. I mean, I thought, well, God, is this even where we're supposed to be? I mean, I feel like that's what you kind of put on our hearts. And, we've tried to get there. And, it is expensive to get there. I mean, it's not just like moving to New Orleans or moving across town or to a different state. I mean, you're going 4,000 miles. And so you start looking at these things and thinking about all the logistics of it, or that's at least from my vantage point. So nothing worked out, and I started putting in different churches and different places, and I think it may have been that following year in 2014 that I had put in for a church in Vermont. Mm-hmm. I thought, hey, that'd be kind of a cool place to go, Vermont, right? And so put in there, talked to them, interviewed with them,
and it seemed serious because big thing for me, they even sent pictures of the house that we would be living in if he got the position. It seemed serious.
But it seemed serious, but also they said, well, we were really looking for someone who could kind of be the worship leader as well as the pastor because we don't have anybody to do that.
And I don't know why you didn't want to
Disclaimer
sing
for
and play piano and guitar.
Churches, search committees, be up front with someone you're interviewing, and if it doesn't meet your criteria, don't drag them through the whole process of interviewing, preaching for them, and sending them a sermon so they can at least listen to it. Mm-hmm. And through this whole process, because it kind of gets hopes where there's no hope there. So it rocked on. That didn't work out. The years just seem like time. I lose track of time, and time just marches on. Yeah. And so I started putting in resumes all over. And when I say all over, I mean all over the United States. I put resumes in all over the United States. And sometimes you get a little nibble. Sometimes you wouldn't get a nibble. You would never hear anything, or you might hear something. Nothing ever seemed to work out. Mm-hmm. And kind of
and I had in my notes too that in August of 2014, since we had been here a whole year, nothing had really worked out, so you wanted to get like a higher paying, more stable job. So that's when you started work at Republic, still thinking it was temporary.
Yeah, it's temporary. I mean, we had to have something paid a little bit more. guess it gave me a little bit of experience with heavy equipment in the trash industry as well. So I got on down there, stayed, started working, started learning, started, I thought doing pretty well at it. Things went around and I got to, I guess it wasn't really an official title, but it was backup lead operator. If the lead operator was out, I was there and I would kind of help direct what we should do and how things should go. And then
so that was 2014. You're working at Republic. You got resumes out everywhere.
Still got resumes out. Nothing's happening. I just thought.
And then like a church in Mississippi contacted you?
Yeah, but I think, a church in Mississippi contacted me. And they were like, hey, it's bivocational and we've got a place you can stay. I thought, hey, okay, that'll work out. So I think I don't know if they sent me like a questionnaire or not, but I think I sent them some information. It was probably a month before they finally got in touch with me, and they said, oh yeah, we've been talking to somebody else, we're going to go with them. And same old thing, just a different day.
Yeah. So that's when we were talking one night.
Yeah, but before you get into that, let me say that I just tried to put it out of my mind, Alaska. I just thought, this is ridiculous. This is not where God wants us.
Yeah.
I'm just tired of thinking of it. I don't know what we're supposed to do. I don't even know why I went to seminary. And I tried to put it out of my mind and just get rid of it, and then comes along.
Okay. So, yeah, that's what you said. You were like, I don't even know where we're supposed to be. And I said, I think I know.
And I said, really? I said, well, where's it at? Well, I'm not telling you.
I'm not going to tell you.
Thanks.
Why is that though?
So.
Because I don't make good decisions. And Jackie really listens to God. And he, like, if God speaks to him, I feel like you're a good listener and and you do the right thing. And I'm super emotionally driven, and I didn't want it to be about me. And I didn't want to say that and like get your emotions riled up about it. So I wasn't going to say it. I was going to let God say it to Jackie.
I was at work at one day, and at that point I was still just an operator. So I was in a dirt truck hauling dirt that day, and kind of had to be, it's one of these things you got to be at the right place at the right time. And I was dumping dirt out, I still remember it. I saw a truck pull up at the front leachate tank, and it said Fairbanks on it. I'd never seen the truck before. I thought, Fairbanks, huh? And it just kind of made me think of Alaska, Fairbanks, Alaska. And didn't really think, I guess, maybe a whole lot more about it. And it might have been, I don't know if it was, I think it was that same week, there was a guy come in. And it was another one of those things where I had to be at the right place at the right time. And we'd come down for lunch, and the operations manager was there. And when we got out for lunch, this guy asked me, he said, are you Chris? I said, no, he's over here. So I went on down. Well, Chris came on down and said, this guy was up here complaining about the price that it is to dump stuff in the landfill. And he said, things are not that expensive at the landfill in Alaska. They don't charge you that much. I'm sitting there and I hear the story, and I thought, it's just kind of odd, Fairbanks in Alaska, this, here. And so I come home
and that's one thing that we kind of disagree about, is because I think the guy came first. I remember the guy coming first and then the truck.
Just remember the disclaimer I put forward.
I'm pretty sure that's how it
front
happened.
Of this video is that it was the egg and the chicken. So anyway, I came home and I told her that. And what was it you told me?
Well, I had not told him anything at all. That I had Alaska on my heart for a long time. We hadn't really talked about it. We thought that was over, but it just wouldn't go away. And I prayed about it, and I kept asking God, tell Jackie. And I asked God to give Jackie a literal sign at work, like something that said Alaska, not, like something that could not be misunderstood. So like, that's why I think that the guy happened first, because what I remember is him coming home and telling me that about the guy, and me kind of being like, yeah, that's weird, but God, that's not what I said. I asked for a sign. And then it seemed like within that same week, the truck came through, and Jackie was like, isn't that weird? That this Alaska came up 2 times in a week. And I was like, yes, that is weird. Yeah, so then I told him what I had been praying about. And I really felt like that was a word from God. That was the sign that I asked for. So I told him about that, and I felt like we kind of had some renewed hope then, a renewed sense of direction.
And it was, it gave me hope, and I was like, okay, well, maybe I wasn't wrong. But then it seemed like, once again, time just started going, and nothing was happening. And I thought, well, what are we supposed to do? How are we supposed to get there? I mean, there's no church opening up. There's nothing happening.
And Alaska is a big place.
There's nothing.
Where exactly in this big expanse should we go? You can't just go there.
Well, I'll tell you where we should go. It should be Anchorage. I mean, Anchorage is kind of a centralized point. It's a larger city. It's not as cold in Anchorage as it is in some spots, and they've got everything you want. I mean, it's just, it kind of reminded me of Chattanooga, just kind of the size of it. And so I thought, yeah, Anchorage, that's it. That's where we should end up at. I think it was 2018 that a church in Eagle River, Alaska, got in touch with me. It's just right outside Anchorage. And I had sent in a resume and sent in, they had something on their site that if you was interested, send in these questions and send your resume. And so I did that, and I think it was maybe in May of that year that they got in touch with us, and we just
seemed very serious.
Yeah, it was very serious, and they called, they did background checks, they called people and they talked to people and asked them what I guess your normal search committee would do.
Yeah. And said we ought to be looking at houses, maybe be looking for somewhere to stay.
The chair called me, and we talked for probably 2 hours one afternoon. And he kind of give you hints of they were going to go with you, and he'd say, we're probably going to end up going with you, but then he would kind of take a step back, and he'd say, you need to start looking at houses and the cost of living up here, and then he'd kind of take a step back, and then I'd sent them all I had as far as recordings and sermons, and they wanted something else. So I sent them something else. And I think this was on a Friday afternoon. This was in July, I think. I know it was in July of 2018 when it happened. And he called and said, well, it was down between me and another guy. And he called, and you kind of hear it in his voice when I picked the phone up. It just wouldn't. You could tell there was something up, and we talked for a few minutes, and he said, yeah. I said, we've kind of decided to go with this other guy. Okay, once again, nothing. God, what's going on here? If you want us up here, what's the problem? And I don't know when this was. I remember Paul Long had told me he had been in touch with a guy. It might have been an Alabama Baptist convention he may have been at, and he saw this guy from Alaska, and he said, you ought to give him a call. And so it was, he gave me the guy's name and number, and it was a guy that I already had been in contact with, and I called him up, we started talking, and he said something about, well, I remember you telling me about the Fairbanks, and no, that's not where I want to go. I don't want to be in Fairbanks. Fairbanks is too cold.
We want a cozy cabin.
I just think
in the mountains beside the lake.
It's going to be a little bit better, I think, in Anchorage. I just think that's the best place for us. And so I talked to him, and he'd kind of talked about Fairbanks needed church plants and things of that nature, and I said, no, no, that's not where we're supposed to be. So that was 20. I don't know when it was. I spoke to him. I don't know what year that was, but I know 2018 is when I spoke with Eagle River. Kind of down and out after that, and I don't know if it was that year or it was the next year, but there was another church that we ended up talking to, and it was First Baptist Church Petersburg in Petersburg, Alaska.
So we're telling names here.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't have done that, but they're not going to watch it anyway. Okay. So I said Eagle River anyway, so it wouldn't have mattered. Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, we spoke with this church, and it went through a process, and I don't know exactly if it was in 2019. It may have been in 2019. It might have been the latter part of the year in 2019. But anyway, it got down between me and another guy. Mm-hmm. And
I thought this was it, because I remember you showing me this. Was it on your phone or your iPad? I think it was on your phone. Like, I can still see like their little ad for it, and when you showed me that, like, my heart did a little flip, and I thought, oh, that's it. And yeah, I was on Zillow picking out a house.
But you have to realize it's on an island. You're limited on what you can do.
Yeah.
I wasn't excited really to say just because where it was at. I mean, I would go because we knew Alaska is where we were supposed to be. And so I was like, yeah, okay, we'll, if that's where God wants us, we'll go. And then it got down between me and another guy, and they did the same process. They did background checks, they talked to people, they called people, spoke with them. They looked at some of the sermons that I had sent them. It got down between me and another guy, and this guy was on the island that they were looking at. And it kind of got down to the point where I don't think it would have been healthy if I had continued to keep my name in the hat. I just felt like the people of the church the individuals of the church were already calling him pastor. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know how they would have reacted if we hadn't went there. So I pulled my name out of that. And so we're back to ground zero again, going, God, what are you doing? What are you doing? And during that time period, do we want to talk about the job up in West Virginia? Or do we want to just get forward?
No, I had that in the blog post about it, because I felt like that, that was part of, I felt like God protecting us against going the wrong direction. Yeah,
and so I thought, well, if Alaska's not where we're going to be and I'm going to stay with the Republic, I'm going to try to move up. They're a large company. They've got places all over the United States. And so I found a supervisor's position up in West Virginia. So put in for it, got an interview, and within an hour maybe of the interview, HR calls me, and she said, hey, he wants you to come up and personally interview and look at the landfill and look at the area. And so at that point, the recruiter got with me, and we got everything scheduled. And so we went up. I mean, they rented us a van, a 15-passenger van. They rented us
all of us, not just Jackie, but they wanted all of us to go.
And so they rented us a van. They rented us a hotel suite where everybody could stay in one room. Mm-hmm. So we drove up. I believe it was on November the 1st one year.
I just think it's funny that you can remember all the dates.
I remember some of the dates just because it was the day before Halloween. So we got a lot of kids running around in here. So it might be a little crazy.
Hold on. Keep talking. I'll go.
And so we drove up. We got there. I think it was on a Thursday afternoon. Friday morning, I went in and interviewed. And when I interviewed, we left. We went to the landfill. We looked at it. And the guy was like, hey, I want to offer you the job. If you want it, it's yours. I said, okay. I said, well, let me go back. Let me talk to Tracy. Talk to her about it, and let's see what we can do, and I'll get back with you. He said, okay. So we started looking around, and we still had some debt at that time, you know, that we were trying to get paid off, and just a few things, nothing major, but we was trying to get it paid off, and it would have really made it difficult to buy a house up there.
And also, we didn't like the houses.
We didn't really like anything up there. I liked it. I just liked the fact, hey, it's West Virginia, it's mountainous, and you know, that's
Why
me.
not?
That's me. And so it was an opportunity to move up and to grow within the company if we weren't going to go anywhere. And I thought, well, you know, hey, I can find a church up here. And so I actually called the guy over to the convention up there, the West Virginia Baptist Convention, and talked with him, and we spoke, and so we were offered the job, and I think it was Saturday we found a townhouse that we were gonna get and stay with. And so I called the guy back and I said, yeah, I'll take the job. So I'll come in Monday. I'll let my boss at work know. And I guess it was Monday. It was kind of weird. I got to get a call from the recruiter, and she said, hey, you know, we kind of missed a step in this process. You know, this is a Fortune 500 company. How do you miss a step in the process? But anyway, they didn't let me interview, and I think he was over area of post collections. So he's pretty high up. And so he calls me one day that week, and I think Tracy had put down it was 15 minutes, but I think when I looked on my phone, it was actually 8 minutes that I talked with the guy.
I'm so sorry. It was exactly 8 minutes.
Yeah,
and
so it was
32
8
seconds.
minutes. And I think the main thing is this was a union site. We're not union where I was at. And so it might have been a little bit more difficult. But after all the planning, after being offered the job, I had not signed the paperwork. It was not sent out just because, hey, they missed a step. So I thought, you know, that's just another, you know, beat down and defeat. You think about Alaska, and it's been probably 5 or 6 years at this point, I guess. And then you think, well, if that's not going to work, let's put in and let's move up. Well, that doesn't work. You know, what are you supposed to do? And so early 2019, I told Tracy, I said, you know, I'd like to just go up to Alaska and look at it, look and see. Fly into Anchorage and kind of check everything out and see if that's where God wants us. Because I remember when I went to seminary, that night when we prayed in the cafeteria, and I bowed my head, the Holy Spirit said, this is where I want you. I thought, well, that's what maybe will happen. Go up there and get, hey, that's it, you know. So I talked to Tracy, and she was like, yeah, go ahead. Didn't really plan on me going at first, because we didn't really have anyone to watch kids. Couldn't really afford to take all of them up there with us as well either. So I went ahead and got a plane ticket. We know a couple in Anchorage. He went and looked at a hotel I was looking at to stay in. It was pretty cheap. And so I booked that. I booked a plane ticket, and I booked mode of transportation. And I guess it was that same week your mother found out that that I was going up there, and she said she volunteered to watch the kids. And I thought, oh, well, good. So we got Tracy a ticket, and this was sometime in June of 2019 that we went up there. And it might have been the first week in June, I don't know, but we flew up on a Friday, and we got there a relatively good time. We left at probably 6 Central Time, and we flew from Huntsville to Chicago, and then from Chicago to Anchorage. They're 3 hours behind us, so the time everything happened, I think it was 1:30 or 2 o'clock that afternoon in Anchorage. We were there, and so we got our car, and we ate, and we went to Walmart, of course, and got a few things. Went to the hotel, checked in that afternoon. We were going to meet with a couple that we knew who lived there and have dinner with them. And so we did that. Had a good time with them. Saturday we went to, it was like a little flea market that they have in Anchorage I think they do it in the summer months. It was nothing like trade day, but it was.
It's not trade day.
Yeah, it's not trade day, but it was kind of a touristy thing. So we did that. We went and ate. We went to the little flea market, and we spent most of the day Saturday in Anchorage. Sunday, I'd booked a train ride from Anchorage to Seward, which is out on the coast. And it's like a 4-hour train ride. So we got up Sunday morning, and it was very early. I think we got there at 6 or 7, got on the train, and we were there by 10 or 11. Very beautiful. Did take a train ride through, I guess, that part of the state. And so when we got there, we walked around the town of Seward, and we ended up going hiking up Mount Marathon, at least maybe halfway up. I don't know.
I think we were probably halfway.
And so we had to turn around and come back down because we didn't want to miss the train, get a ride back. That Monday, I think we went to, was it Monday when we went to Denali State Park? I don't know. Anyway, we went to Denali State Park, didn't go to the national park. We went up, looked at that, rode around. We came back on Tuesday, and I think we met with a guy, former employee of the state convention up there. Met with him, talked with him, and then we went hiking some more to Mount Flat Top. We came back, and I think Wednesday morning, is that not when we flew out? I think we flew out on Wednesday morning. So we were there several days. Had a good time, good food, good time, beautiful place to be, plenty of daylight. And
but the thing that we wanted to happen didn't
happen.
happen.
It didn't happen.
We had no word from God during that time.
We went to the places that I would have wanted to go to. We went to Anchorage. We went to Wasilla. It's about an hour north of Anchorage. It's a smaller town, but it was very beautiful up there. But we come back like we went up there, not really knowing any more than what we did when we got back. And then I just thought, I don't know. And at that same time we went up, I had put in for operations supervisor where I was at currently, and it ended up working out, and I ended up getting that position. I thought, well, and this just may be where I'm supposed to be. It was still one of those things I had in my mind. Maybe this is still it, even though not really feeling comfortable with that. I thought, that might give you an opportunity to make a little more money, and if you do pastor, just to pastor bivocationally, which is nothing wrong with that. But still just wasn't comfortable with it, and the hours were just over the top, and it's just the way that industry is there's a lot of hours,
It's really hard.
A lot of overtime, 55, 60, 65 hours a week. You didn't really have time to pastor. You didn't really have time to do anything except work, come home, eat,
go to sleep,
get up and do it again. During that process, we started talking about buying a house. I didn't really want to talk about it. I was like, man. And I'd always...
I wanted to talk about it a lot.
This was a deferment. You always have a deferment. I'd say, wait till May of next year. But in reality, I was serious about that. Wait until May of next year. And it seemed like that went on a couple of years. But we started looking at houses, and I didn't feel right about it. I just thought, we're not supposed to be here. We're supposed to be in Alaska. Where are we supposed to be in Alaska? And so we looked at some houses. I know we went the first time, and we had some debt that I thought, if we get this paid off, Tracy, this is reasoning in my mind to tell her, hey, if we get this paid off, we can afford a little bit more of a house. Okay, that'll work. So the following year, we got some of the bills, the biggest majority of them, I guess, paid off, and it got to the point where we didn't have really anything major. So we started looking again. I got pre-qualified for a loan, and we started looking at houses, and
but that was 2020.
That was 2020. That was last year with COVID, yes.
Yeah, and that was when everything in the whole world was nutso. But we still got approved during that time. We were still able to look at some houses during that time. But also I feel like because of the pandemic, it was a seller's market. And they could pretty much, ask what they wanted and they were going to get it, except we couldn't give it.
Just where I felt comfortable. I didn't want to put a
Yeah.
strain on everything. And
Yeah.
really, I didn't really care because I didn't really think that here was where we're supposed to be. And I don't know about Tracy sometimes. To me, she's hard to read and hard to get. And she's making a face right now. What are you saying? But, at times we go through this, she'd just say like, yeah, I don't want to go. I don't want to go to Alaska. I just want to find somewhere and let's just be it. Let's just settle down and be it. But I didn't feel comfortable with that. And did you feel comfortable with it?
I didn't really, but honestly, Alaska is not where I would pick. I don't mind it here at all. I like Alabama. I would buy a big house and start a petting zoo there with all the animals I want to buy, and I would be totally fine. I loved looking at all the houses. I loved thinking about that. But yeah, as we looked at all those houses, yeah, there was just something in my spirit that, was kind of holding me back. We just could never shake Alaska.
So I remember where I was sitting at the landfill that day. Don't know why I even looked at this, but Tracy always joked about a homestead and how she'd like to do that. I wouldn't mind a homestead, but when you got 6 kids to have to feed and deal with, it would be a little bit more difficult.
You can do all the work.
Yeah. And so just really wasn't, I guess, in my mind, but I just found something. I thought, hey, it'd be kind of a joke just to send Tracy. And I don't even know why I looked at a house in Fairbanks. I don't know why, but it was a house, and I thought it was kind of funny. It said that they'd have running water hooked up this spring.
Yeah, coming soon.
And so I just sent
Indoor
that to
plumbing.
her. I just sent that to her and didn't really think anything of it. And don't know, like I said, I don't really know what was going through my mind at that time, but I sent that to her. Yeah, I sent that to her. And what was it that kind of come up to you when I sent that?
I was just disgusted about the whole thing. I wanted to leave. I was ready to go. I was tired of being here.
Now, let me interrupt on this part too, but I think maybe 2020 we looked at houses and we said, yeah, that's not it. And I was like, well, look, if nothing comes up, if we May of next year, which would have been, this time this year, 2021, and I was like, we'll just move. We'll just go. We'll just go.
But I didn't believe that because how many times had I heard it before?
And,
A lot.
And so
when he sent me that link to that house, I prayed extremely casually and kind of in a disgusted way. God, if that's where you want us, you just need to tell him again. Okay, and then maybe 15 minutes later, I get another text message, and it's got a picture of what?
it was the Fairbanks
The
truck.
same Fairbanks truck
Oh,
was there.
I never did know when it was going to be there most of the time. Yeah, I was in management, but if there was something, and basically it was a Fairbanks and it was a scale truck that verified the weight on the scales that they would be correct. But the name of the company was Fairbanks. And I had no idea it was going to be there that day, so I sent that picture and I said, well, here you go, or something like that, and just kind of laughed about it. But
And he didn't know that I had prayed that at all, and I wrote back, "Are you kidding me?"
and you know, I do want to say this. I know we haven't probably put everything in here, but there's just little things pointing us to Alaska throughout this whole 8-year process, and then and it's probably at the beginning when we first saw that truck, or at least I did, the Fairbanks, Alaska, and I told the people, you know, I didn't want to go to Fairbanks. I want to go somewhere that's a little bit more comfortable. It wouldn't be as cold. And so it might have been just me. It might have been holding us back this whole time, but I just wasn't 100% certain. And I guess fast forward back to May 2021, I said, you know, we'll just end up moving. And so we tried to start saving money back 2020 last year, and it seems like it's always easier said than done to do that, but you know, we had a little bit to help us to get there. And it's still extremely expensive to get there. It's you got to jump through a lot of hoops to get there, to get through the Canadian border because of COVID. They've still got their border shut down. And you've got to have either proof of a job, you're in the military, or you got to have proof of residency in Alaska before you can go through the border. And then when you do that, you got to have a negative COVID test within 72 hours of getting to the border. You got to have everything laid out, what you're going to do, how long you think you're going to be in Canada. They don't want you interacting. They want you to get through and to get out. So,
And you can't really get a job unless you live there.
You can't really get a job, unless you get there who's going to hire you 4,000 miles away. So basically, you know, we believe it is Fairbanks. We believe that's where we're supposed to be. I've been in contact with a pastor up there for about a year. I've got my resume up there. And so as we sit here today, you know, we talked about when do I quit my job? When do I quit my job? And, you know, I decided to turn in my notice first week of April. And if they would allow me, I would work through April the 30th, and that might give them time to find someone to fill the position I was leaving. And so April 30th was my last day of Republic services. And we thought, we'll be gone by May. You know, and we looked at having a company move our stuff up there, and she did a Zoom with Tracy and kind of went through the process, and I still don't think we've got 7,000 pounds of stuff to move up there. That doesn't seem
We have
feasible.
a really small house, and we weren't even going to take all of the furniture, and
But it's still going to be $20,000.
$20,000.
$20,000 to move our stuff up there. No, it's not going to work. So I started looking at U-Hauls, and it's more feasible to do a U-Haul and just to drive up there. And then that's when you start running into everything else with the Canadian government. I look at my passport that I had from 2011 when I went to Israel. Well, it's only good for 10 years. Passport ran out March of 2021. Well, I thought, you've got to have a passport or a passport card to get through the Canadian border. So I'll just do a passport card. I don't feel like going anywhere overseas anywhere. So I sent that off, and I tried to expedite it, and it said it could still take 4 to 6 weeks. I sent this off, I think it was the first part of March or April, maybe April 10th or something. I can remember some days. And so I sent that off. It was supposed to be there the following week, and I think it was 2 weeks
before it even got there.
Before it even got there, USPS. And I thought, how long is this going to take? Well, we started looking for apartments. It was probably the first of May. And, man, we couldn't find anything. I mean, if you could find something, it was so outrageous that, $2,400 a month for for apartment rent. I was like, there's no way.
We're not a very nice place either.
So I thought, now what's going on? Here we are. I've quit my job. You know, we're going. We're just going to move. And everybody's like, well, where are you going to work at? Well, I don't know. Well, have you got a church up there? No, I don't have a church. Don't have a job. Don't have anything. We're going. We're just going to go. And so, like I said earlier, God has provided a little. And I guess it was 1st of June, maybe, we'd put in for an apartment. And some older apartments. I had the guy go up, the pastor, he went and looked at it, and he said it'd be a good place to start until we could find something else. So put an application in, and I think there was 5 people ahead of us. I thought, how long is that going to take? Come to find out, the military has sent some more people up in the Fairbanks area, something having to do with the F-35 fighter jet, and it's kind of taken up a lot of the apartment rentals that was up there. And so everything, as soon as something comes open, it's picked up. Mm-hmm. And so I call this guy, you know, I'm just kind of going through everything. I thought, you know, hey, I quit my job. I mean, it was a good job. The pay was good, but for the hours that you worked, I don't know that it really averaged out to be really great, but it was good. It's the most, you know, God bless us with that. And so I quit my job, and now it's nothing. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me again. What is going on here? There's no apartment. I quit my job. I put in for a position. The lady called me and she said, well, there's not a lot I can do until you get up here. And so it's kind of hard to get a job until you get there. And so, but it has worked out. If nothing happens, imagine that, something happening. Yeah. Somewhere around the middle of July, he said we should have the apartment ready. So at that point, the 1st of July, I kind of find out when the exact day is going to be. It's probably, if nothing happens, drive time, nothing breakdowns, it should take you about 8 to 9 days to get there driving, doing 500 miles a day. Mm-hmm. So when we figure that out, we can kind of pinpoint the date and get the U-Haul and try to pack everything up and set out for the Canadian border. And all the loopholes and the hoops and everything you have to jump through to get across.
Yeah, and just Jackie, probably Jathan and Rylan are going to drive in the U-Haul, because I don't want to drive 4,000 miles with 6 children. And then,
well, as long as you're in the van with the rest of them, I don't see what the problem would be.
Gosh, I can't imagine. So then I'm planning on flying with the youngest 4 and Meow. Several people have asked about that. Is Meow going?
Does someone want a cat?
She's going. She's going on the plane. She's going to take her first plane ride. Yeah. Okay. So, but another thing a lot of people have asked about is Keely going. And as of right now, Keely's not going. I would like to duct tape her and Malcolm and stuff them in a suitcase, but I figure the Canadian border would frown upon that. Yeah, so her plan right now is to move to Indiana, actually, where her boyfriend Sean is already living and working, getting a place set up for their little family. So
when we get there, you know, like I said, don't have a job.
Yeah.
Kind of been looking for some jobs. Don't have a ministry position. I think several options are available there. Well, don't know about pastoring a church when we first get there, but
it's a huge ministry field, though. Just being there.
Just being there, and then even church planning is an option. And we got some other things that we're looking and praying about to see if that's the direction God leads us or not. But do we want to say anything about this? Just the coincidence.
Yeah. Okay. So we talked about moving furniture.
It's cheaper to buy here and take it up with you than it is to buy it in Fairbanks, because things are so much more expensive.
Yeah, we kind of started looking at what do we want to take, Can we just rebuy stuff? And one thing that we really needed was a new table, because we had a table that I loved that seated 6 people, and we have 8 people minimum. You know, we can't hardly have anybody over. We have to like shift people if Keely comes over, stuff like that. So we started looking around, and I found a table that I loved on Facebook Marketplace, and we were going to go look at it. So I kind of just checked out the guy's profile just to make sure we weren't going to some psycho's house, since we did have to go to their house, you know. And I happened to notice he graduated from the University of Alaska. And I was like, that's really weird. I think it said he went to Bristol Bay High School or something like that, but he had been in Alaska. And when we went to go check out the table, he wasn't there, but his wife was. We asked her, and she was like, yeah, we're from Alaska. It turned out he is a native Alaskan, an Eskimo. She described herself as an army brat. She said that they met in Fairbanks. Yeah, so what are the odds of that? I don't know. It just felt like another little confirmation from God. And they gave us a fantastic deal on a beautiful table and friended us on Facebook. So we're going to try and keep in contact with them and just, you know, have another contact. And another thing, what was really encouraging too was what she said about how her husband came to be a Christian. He was a native. He was from a village, a hard to get to village, and
she just said if it wasn't for the Baptist
a Baptist preacher
that showed up there,
came in.
I think they were doing like a vacation Bible school or something.
I don't know. I don't remember that, but
and instead, if it hadn't been for him showing up and sharing the gospel, that her husband, man, never knew anything about God.
Yeah. So that just felt special. So now we have that memory and that connection now.
Well, I guess that's it.
Yeah.
You know, just pray for us as we move forward and we go. And, you know, you think about all these things, and my mind has went a million different ways since this process has started back in 2013. And I always look at Abram, and when God told him to go, that he would show him the land that he would give him. It doesn't give us any commentary on what, you know, Abram thought or what Abram said or what his family may have said that knew he was leaving. He just got up and he went. And sometimes we have to just do what God says and just go. But I know there's also an appointed time to go. And whether we ever see why we were here for 8 years or not, now is the time we feel like to go and to move to Fairbanks and start another chapter in our lives.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I guess that's all. If you made it to the end, it's almost an hour long. So congratulations, and thank you for listening to our story, and remember to pray for us. Bye.
Bye.